There is a good chance that what you are doing right now, tonight, in your own kitchen, is creating the exact chemical conditions that researchers have directly linked to one of the deadliest, most silent cancers in modern medicine. You are not doing anything reckless. You are not taking shortcuts. You are just reheating last night's dinner. You are being practical. You are being smart with food. And yet 5 very specific foods sitting in the average refrigerator right now, undergo a chemical transformation the second time heat touches them that your body cannot defend itself against without a fight. In the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly which 5 foods are the most dangerous to reheat, what is happening inside them chemically when you press that microwave button, and why it matters more after 60 than it ever did before. Stay until the end, because the 5th one is the one most people are doing every single day without the slightest suspicion. I want to start by asking you something. When was the last time anyone, a doctor, a nutritionist, a health program on television, sat down and explained to you the actual chemistry of what happens when you reheat the foods you eat every week? Not a vague suggestion like, be careful with leftovers. The actual science. The compounds that form, the organs that take the hit. Most people never get that conversation. My name is Dr. Gregory Holt. I have spent over 15 years in internal medicine and preventive health, and I have sat across from far too many patients, intelligent, careful people who did everything they were supposed to do, who were blindsided by diagnoses that had been quietly building in their bodies for years through habits they had no idea were dangerous. That is what this channel is about, giving you the real information so you can make informed choices. Before we go any further, I want to be clear about something important. Everything I share here is educational. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice. If you are experiencing any of the symptoms we discussed today, please see your doctor. Do not wait. Do not self-diagnose. Your health deserves that level of attention. Now, let us talk about what is really happening inside your leftovers. Food number 1, cooked eggs. I want you to think about the boiled eggs you made earlier this week. Maybe you cooked a batch on Monday, put them in the fridge, and have been reheating them one at a time. It is efficient. It makes sense. Except what happens inside a cooked egg the second time heat is applied is something that most people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond need to understand, because the risk is not about food poisoning. It is something subtler and more serious than that. Here is the science in plain language. Egg whites are composed almost entirely of protein chains called albumins. When you cook an egg for the first time, those proteins denature, meaning they unfold and set. That is what makes a cooked egg white firm. When you apply heat a second time, those already denatured proteins undergo further structural breakdown, releasing sulfur compounds, specifically hydrogen sulfide, in concentrations that are measurably higher than a freshly cooked egg produces. Why does this matter? Because your gut lining, which is already less resilient after 60 than it was at 30, is significantly more reactive to sulfur compound overload. The result is a cascade of gut inflammation that puts your digestive organs, including your pancreas, into a state of chronic low-grade stress. Think of it this way. Imagine a road crew that has been working all day. They are tired. They have already repaired a long stretch of road. Now, just as they are packing up, you ask them to repave the same section again from scratch. They can do it, but the quality of the work goes down. Mistakes happen. Things get missed. That is your gut lining dealing with reheated egg proteins at 65 or 70. It has already done the work. Asking it to process a damaged version of that same food is asking an already tired system to work harder than it should. The fix is simple. Eat your boiled eggs cold. Hard-boiled eggs straight from the refrigerator are one of the most nutritionally complete, easy-to-prepare foods you can eat. Every nutrient is still there. None of the chemical degradation from a second heat cycle. Scrambled eggs or fried eggs. Cook only what you are eating right now, 2 minutes from pan to plate. There is no version of a reheated scrambled egg that is worth what it costs your digestive system. Stay with me, because food number 2 is one that the entire medical community has been telling you is a superfood, and it is, but only under one very specific condition. Food number 2, cooked mushrooms. If you are someone who adds mushrooms to your cooking regularly, you are doing something genuinely good for your health. Mushrooms are rich in beta-glucans, selenium, B vitamins, and compounds with documented immune-modulating properties. But here is what happens the moment you refrigerate cooked mushrooms and then reheat them. Mushrooms are extraordinarily high in protein compared to most vegetables. When you cook them, those proteins begin to break down. The beneficial cellular structures that make mushrooms so nutritious start to degrade. When you refrigerate them, that degradation continues slowly. And when you apply heat a second time, the proteins break down further into compounds that your gut bacteria metabolize in ways that produce inflammatory byproducts. But the deeper issue with reheated mushrooms is something most people have never heard of: oxidative stress on the hepatic-pancreatic axis. Let me explain that without the jargon. Your liver and your pancreas share a drainage system. They work together constantly. When your liver is processing oxidized proteins from reheated mushrooms, it signals your pancreas to adjust its enzyme output to compensate. If this happens occasionally, no problem. But if you are reheating and eating cooked mushrooms 3 or 4 times a week, you are putting that shared system under a low-level but persistent stress it was not designed to sustain indefinitely. Think of it like a water pressure system. 2 houses on the same pipe. If one house suddenly opens every tap at full pressure, the house next door feels the drop. Your liver opens every tap when it is dealing with oxidized proteins, and your pancreas is the house next door. The fix? Eat your cooked mushrooms cold, in salads, on grain bowls, tossed with good olive oil and a little lemon. Everything that makes mushrooms nutritious is still fully intact when they are cold. Nothing is lost. Only the risk is removed. If you do reheat them, do it once, gently, and only to warm them through, not to cook them again. Each additional heat cycle multiplies the oxidative damage to the proteins inside. The next food on this list is one I know is in your refrigerator right now. And the danger inside it starts from the moment it stops cooking, not from the moment you reheat it. Food number 3, cooked potatoes stored improperly. We talked earlier about what happens when you reheat potatoes at high heat. But there is a danger with cooked potatoes that most people never address, one that begins before the reheating even happens. When cooked potatoes are stored at room temperature, even for a few hours, they become a breeding ground for a toxin called solanine. Solanine is a naturally occurring glycoalkaloid that forms as part of potato metabolism under certain conditions. Normally, levels in raw and properly stored potatoes are harmlessly low, but cooked potatoes left on the counter for 2, 3, 4 hours before being refrigerated accumulate solanine at levels that can cause genuine gastric distress, headaches, and, with repeated low-level exposure, ongoing gut inflammation that feeds directly into the chronic inflammatory conditions we have been discussing throughout this video. Here is a concrete example. You make a big pot of mashed potatoes at Sunday dinner. You leave the pot on the stovetop to cool completely before putting it in the refrigerator. That is what most of us were taught to do. You were told not to put hot food in the fridge because it raises the temperature inside and affects other food. That advice is not wrong, but it has a time limit most people were never given. Cooked starchy foods should not sit at room temperature for more than 2 hours. After 2 hours, you refrigerate them, still warm if necessary. The risk of solanine accumulation and bacterial activity is far greater than any minor impact on refrigerator temperature. Once properly refrigerated within that 2-hour window, the next step is how you reheat them. Never refry a cooked potato. Never use high oven heat. Gentle steam, or a moderate oven no higher than 160 degrees Celsius, is all you need. The goal is warm, not scorched. And whenever possible, eat your cooked potatoes cold in a salad with olive oil, mustard, and herbs. Cold cooked potatoes have a lower glycemic impact, which matters enormously for insulin sensitivity, something your pancreas manages less efficiently with each passing decade. I want you to stay right here, because the next 2 foods are the ones that genuinely surprised my own patients when I showed them the research. One of them is something you almost certainly eat every single week. Food number 4, leftover rice, again, from a different angle. I know you may have heard that leftover rice can be dangerous, but what most people have not been told is the specific mechanism that makes it dangerous for people over 60 in a way that is categorically different from younger adults. The bacteria Bacillus cereus and its spores are present in virtually all dry rice from any supermarket anywhere in the world. Cooking kills the active bacteria, but not the spores. Those spores activate as the rice cools and produce a toxin that survives reheating entirely intact. Here is what most health videos do not tell you. As we age, our gut microbiome, the community of bacteria that lines our digestive tract and regulates our immune response, becomes less diverse and less resilient. Studies in gastroenterology consistently show that adults over 60 have measurably reduced populations of the beneficial bacteria strains that help neutralize and manage low-level toxin exposure from food. What a 30-year-old gut handles without missing a beat, your gut at 65 is managing with a depleted team. Repeated exposure to the heat-stable toxins in improperly stored and reheated rice does not just cause occasional upset. It creates a persistent low-level inflammatory signal in your gut that your now leaner immune army cannot fully suppress. That signal travels directly to your pancreas through shared lymphatic and vascular pathways. The image I want you to hold in your mind is this. Imagine a smoke alarm that goes off briefly and then resets. Once, twice, fine. But if that alarm is going off for a few seconds every single day for years, eventually the battery runs out, the wiring degrades, and the alarm stops working the way it should. That is what repeated low-level toxin exposure does to your gut pancreas signaling system over time. The fix is not complicated. Cool your rice within 1 hour of cooking by spreading it thin on a wide tray for faster cooling. Refrigerate it within that hour. Eat it within 24 hours. Reheat it fully until it is steaming hot throughout, and never reheat it more than once. One final thing about rice. If you are reheating rice that has been in your refrigerator for more than 2 days, throw it away. I understand that feels wasteful, but consider the choice you are actually making. Food number 5, reheated processed or cured meats. This is the one that I think surprises people the most, because we are not talking about raw meat or chicken. We are talking about the sliced ham you have in the fridge, the sausages left over from breakfast, the cured turkey slices you heated up in a pan for a quick lunch. Here is what is happening inside those foods that most people have never been told. Processed and cured meats contain compounds called nitrates and nitrites, which are added during the curing and preservation process. At room temperature, they are stable. When you heat them once, some nitrosamine formation occurs, but at manageable levels in a healthy gut. When you refrigerate them and then apply heat a second time, the chemistry changes significantly. The proteins in those meats have already been partially broken down by the initial cooking. The nitrites are now more chemically mobile, meaning they interact more easily with those broken down proteins to form nitrosaminas, the compounds classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as probable human carcinogens. And here is the detail that changes everything when you are over 60. Younger bodies typically have robust enzymatic systems in the liver that can neutralize a meaningful percentage of nitrosamines before they reach vulnerable tissue. By our 60s and 70s, those enzymatic pathways are operating at reduced capacity. The nitrosamines that your liver would have partially neutralized at 40 are now passing through to your bloodstream, your organs, and your pancreatic tissue at concentrations that are measurably higher, not because you are eating more of them, but because your detoxification system is working harder to keep up. Think of it as a water filtration system. A new filter catches almost everything. An older, partially clogged filter lets more through. Your nitrosamine filtration system in your liver is that older filter. The fix is straightforward. Eat cured and processed meats cold. A slice of ham straight from the refrigerator in a sandwich, on a salad, alongside some cold vegetables, carries a fraction of the nitrosamine load of that same ham heated in a pan. If you need them warm, heat them gently, briefly, and once only. And honestly, wherever you can replace processed meats with fresh protein sources, your pancreas will thank you for it. Let me bring this home quickly. 5 foods, 5 very specific chemical reasons to change one small habit in your kitchen starting tonight. Eggs, eat them cold. Skip the second heat entirely. Mushrooms, cold in a salad or gently warmed once. That is the rule. Potatoes, refrigerate within 2 hours of cooking, reheat at low temperature, and eat cold whenever you can. Rice, cool it fast, refrigerate within the hour, eat within 24 hours, reheat once and fully. Cured meats, cold or heated briefly just once and as rarely as possible. 5 foods, 5 habits. None of them require you to give up anything you love. They just ask you to make one smarter choice each time. Your pancreas has been doing its job quietly and without complaint every single day of your life. It has never once asked anything of you in return. What we have covered today is not about fear. Fear is not useful. Practical knowledge is. If what I shared today gave you something you can actually use the next time you open your refrigerator, consider subscribing. I share this kind of real, evidence-based information every week, the kind of conversation most people never get the chance to have with their doctor. I am Dr. Gregory Holt. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.